Sach, what's going on, my brother? How we doing?
You know, Terrance, names are hard.
Okay.
I think that my name should be Sachi Global, or Sachi Force, or Sachi Wrestling.
Okay, all right. Are you having some branding issues? Or what?
I don't know. I want to pick a name that will last for a long time.
Okay.
I don't want to have to change my name to Sachi Amped.
Okay. Or Sachi Impact.
Yeah. You know? We're gonna get right into it. Look. Heart blacker than my socks. The fan waiting for that drop. I haven't written in a week. Been double tapping like a creep. Saw colors with my last girl. With my new chick, I see the world. You know? Yeah, she got me plotting. Maybe I should put a baby in a chick. Fuck happiness. I just like I'm pretty and I'm thick. Girl, you know that I'm a Mac with it. Shouldn't have to say it twice. You don't have to love me. You just gotta act right. Yeah.
Welcome to Talkin Bout Wrestling. This is a show for wrestling fans by wrestling fans. I'm your host, TW Talkin Bout. You can find me on Twitter at TW Talkin Bout. Thanks again to Thomas Legend for letting us use his song Act Right for the opening to our show. His debut project, High, is available right now on iTunes, Tidal, Spotify, Google Play, all of that. So definitely go check that out. Thanks again to Thomas Legend for letting us use Act Right as the opening to our show. All right, so real quick, guys, before we get into all our fun wrestling talk that we always do, whatever you're listening on, if it's YouTube, if it's SoundCloud, if it's iTunes, anything else, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and go ahead and leave me a comment or a rating. Let me know what you think of the show. You know what I mean? Am I full of it, or are we giving you something to think about? Are we helping you enjoy your wrestling week? Let me know how I can make this show better and more fun for you. Let me know if you agree or disagree with the stuff that I'm saying. So pretty much what I'm saying is, let me know if you're right by agreeing with me or if you're wrong by not agreeing with me. Right? Got it. Okay, cool. So this week in wrestling is going to be a fun one. We got No Mercy coming up this weekend with two huge main events. They got a double main event that is WrestleMania worthy coming up at No Mercy. And it almost feels too good to be true, right? But we are going to get it. And we're going to dive into it head first. And we're going to, have, as fans, we're going to sit back, enjoy it, have fun, and talk about it later. But we're going to talk about it right now as far as, what's the buildup leading into it? Are you excited? Am I excited? That's the type of stuff that we're going to talk about. So I'm definitely going to bring in Sach, and we're going to play America's favorite game. Yes, please. No, please. And please, please. But before I get in that, I do want to talk about something else. A big part of the reason that I started doing this podcast was I felt like whenever I would hear people talk about Impact Wrestling, that it never seemed to be coming from an unbiased, just a place of, I'm watching the show, here's what's going on, and, let's talk about that stuff. And I'm starting to see why, right? I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of people that are just, completely brainwashed and feel like, if it's not WWE, it must be crap, right? And I definitely don't feel that way, right? I'm open to watch any kind of wrestling. But when it comes to Impact Wrestling, man, they just can't seem to get out of their own way. And the problem with that is that they have a really good show, man. Like, this show has been really good for the past few weeks. It's just all the stuff going on around them from the outside, all the negative headlines, is really killing the ability to be able to just watch the show and get into the characters and what's happening to the characters and where are they going. They got a really good story going on with Bobby Lashley right now. Is he going to Is he going to go back to MMA, or is he going to stay in pro wrestling? And they even got some of the guys who he trains with in MMA kind of crossing over, and we kind of get the feeling that that's going to lead to some sort of match angle going on. Okay, so that's cool. They got a brand new champion who they're trying to build up and put on the level of different champions from different promotions all around the world, and he's a great talker. He has all the tools, it seems like, to be a superstar all over the world, but we just can't seem to be talking about it. We got Taya Valkyrie that just came in. She's a really good wrestler. She's a big deal. We got Kiera Hogan. We're waiting to see when she makes her debut. These are all things that we should be talking about when it comes to Impact Wrestling, but we're not. And you know why we're not? Because we're talking about the latest flub up by management/ownership. Now, about 2 weeks ago, some rumors came out that, the company was looking to sell, and this all stemmed from Jeff Jarrett getting suspended, and it was all doom and gloom, right? And a couple of days later, that kind of got squashed because Ed Nordholm, who's the boss over there, he, kind of came out and said, listen, we're not looking to sell. We're actually looking to, do a lot of new initiatives, right? We got this global wrestling network coming out. And why would we sell our tape library to WWE when we just monetize it ourselves? And I'm like, okay, that's cool. It took them a couple of days, but at least they did come out and refute the statement. And I'm like, maybe moving away from Jeff Jarrett might be the smart thing to do. Now, part of the news that came out in that flood, that wave of bad news about 2 weeks ago, was the fact that they got in bed with Jeff Jarrett so heavily that they planned on acquiring the Gloal Force Wrestling name. And they rebranded themselves as Gloal Force Wrestling. We've all seen that. And we've all actually kind of gotten used to calling them GFW, right? Like, everybody has gotten used to actually calling them GFW. They got new title belts. They put new ring ropes on. They've got, new production graphics that talks about how their strategy is being a global brand, right? This is all in the branding that they've been doing and they've been putting out publicly, and everybody's been kind of just going along with the wave. It's like, okay, we don't completely trust you because you still look like TNA, but there's a lot of, you guys are doing a lot. You're putting out new conference calls and, good video packages and a lot of tweets that is doing everything possible to create a positive buzz around the name GFW. But there's just one problem. Anthem failed to secure the rights to the name GFW. So when they gave Jeff Jarrett an indefinite leave of suspension, they found out that in the event that they didn't want to bring him back, that he was going to take the GFW name with him. That's right. I said it right here on this show when Jeff Jarrett first started taking over, and there was a lot of GFW branding going on, and I didn't quite understand why that this could potentially be a problem. I was like, why is Jeff Jarrett promoting his other wrestling promotion on Anthem's new property? It didn't make sense. Now, as we've all come to find out, right? The plan all along was to eventually rebrand as GFW. The story of Slammiversary was the end of TNA and the birth of GFW. It was actually really well told, right? But again, if you were going to do that, you should have secured the rights to all the GFW branding and the intellectual properties and all of that stuff. But again, they obviously didn't, because once they kicked Jeff Jarrett to the curb and not knowing if he was going to come back or not, they distanced themselves from all GFW branding. And so then they come back and now everything's been branded Impact. Now, it's not necessarily that bad of a thing because they were already called Impact, so it's not that drastic of a change, but it's just the simple fact that this is another obvious management flub. And when management flubs are making such news that it just overshadows the TV show, the product that they're putting out, like, that's a problem, man. We're at a problematic place with this. there were actually some things that I liked that came out over the course of the past week too. Like, I like the idea that they decided to move Bound for Glory away from the Impact Zone in Orlando and instead move it to a venue in Ottawa, Canada. And then news came out that they were looking to draw about 500 people to the venue in Ottawa, Canada. And I saw a lot of people making fun of that. And my response to that was, how many people do you think are in the Impact Zone? The Impact Zone only holds about, the Impact Zone at the most holds about 600 people. I know this because I worked organizing audiences for TV shows. And so I can look at a setup of chairs, and I can tell you a rough estimate of how many people are sitting in that section. And I can tell you that NXT, when they tape in Full Sail, the Impact Zone, when they're when they're having one of their fuller days, and even lately SmackDown, okay, I can look at those crowds and give you a good estimate of about how many people were in there. And I can tell you on a regular taping at the Impact Zone, there's only about 300-400 people in there. So 500 people might actually be an upgrade, because on the way they set up the Impact Zone for tapings, there's no seats on the hard camera side. Very little. Just a couple of people, I think, right in the front row. But other than that, there's nothing on that hard camera side. So there's not a lot of people. So to say that they're only going to have, they're only to laugh at the idea that they're hoping to draw 500 people for Bound for Glory, that just shows that you have no idea how many people are normally there in the Impact Zone. So, I mean, listen, of course the internet's going to, jump in the negative direction when it comes to TNA, but I actually thought that the idea of moving Bound for Glory to Ottawa and moving the tapings to Ottawa was actually a good thing, because you got to get out of the Impact Zone. You got to get in front of some fresh fans. You can't be in front of the same people all the time. You got to move the show to a place where people are going to come out of their house, go in their pockets, pay money, and watch the show, and that's going to change the feeling and the vibe of everything in the show. So I was actually really happy about that, because I feel like in order to move forward, you got to take some type of chances. And so the people who were in charge, they were taking some chances, right? You're taking some chances by moving the show to Ottawa on short notice. I haven't seen anything about ticket sales up yet, so I'm not sure how they plan on doing that. But you got to take chances, right? You got to take chances. So that was a good thing. But then again, once it became apparent to everybody that they were rebranding themselves as Impact after going through all that trouble to announce that TNA was dead and, we're going to now be GFW, it just really, really, really made this company look like they just continuously can't get out of their way. And I just, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I'm hoping they find some way to get it together, because, I want to enjoy the show, man. But they've got to find some way to stop the negative publicity, because when negative news comes out, it takes 5 pieces. It takes 10 pieces at this point. It might even take 20 pieces of good news to equal out the attention that one piece of negative news gets from Impact Wrestling. So where this company's going to go, we'll see. You know what I mean? I'll obviously be here. I'll keep watching, and I'm hoping for the best. But who knows what's on the horizon for the 6-sided ring. All right, so that's my take on Impact this week. I wanted to go ahead and get that in there. And now I'm going to do what you guys all been waiting for. I'm going to bring in Sach so we can play America's favorite game. Yes, please. No, please. Please, please. Oh, okay. All right, everybody. Oh, man, I'm back here with Sach. And Sach. Man, wrestling is the gift that keeps on giving, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is.
I mean, if you just think about it, we got No Mercy coming up. That's this week, right? This weekend?
Yes.
Is that this weekend or next weekend?
That is coming up on Sunday the 24th.
Okay, so actually, it should be on the day this comes out. So because of that, I may have to put this out a day or two early, just so people can get it and prepare for No Mercy.
Guys, you see what we do for you?
Look at that. So, you know what, Sach? I got to make it a point, just because you mentioned that, we're going to do the typical wrestling podcast thing, and we're going to do No Mercy predictions.
No Mercy.
Yeah.
Hey,
so
you remember during the mid-2000s, they used to have a song just about No Mercy, and they would play it every year?
I did not know that.
Guys, go on YouTube and search for No Mercy song 2004, 2005 maybe. They had a song just for No Mercy.
See, that's definitely the time when I wasn't watching wrestling. That was like my time when I was out of wrestling. And I'm kind of glad I missed it. That's a time period. It's very interesting. See, I was like a teenager during the Attitude Era, which to me was the golden age of professional wrestling. And I stopped watching around 2000, 2001 when I went to college. And and so obviously I was just, doing more fun things, right? Like when you're in college. And I got back into it around 2006, 2007. And it was so different. It was so different. And it seems like a lot of people who are fans now actually kind of started watching around that time. Like people that really remember the Ruthless Aggression era and the Kurt Angle and the SmackDown 6. And this is all stuff that, I wasn't really watching for. And so whenever people talk about this stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's great. So, yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't trade, Brett versus Shawn, Montreal Screwjob, Sting versus the NWO, Rock versus Austin, the Come Up. I wouldn't trade that for the Ruthless Aggression era. Hell no.
For the heartthrobs, for the dicks, for the squad, for Big Daddy P.
Exactly.
We had a lot of weird gimmicks. I remember it was Val Venus and Viscera versus the Heartthrobs in a tag team match. And Jim Ross was basically, he couldn't say it explicitly, but he was basically saying it's four guys with the same gimmick.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my God, which is probably a little more insightful than he was when he was commenting on the Mae Young Classic. Yeah, I said it. Oh man, the Mae Young Classic was good, man. I know we talked about it a lot, but okay, so I was watching NXT this week. We were talking about this a few minutes ago, and there was a match between Bianca Belair and who's the
Lacey Evans?
Lacey Evans, yes. And it was a good match, man. It was I really enjoyed it. And by the way, Bianca Belair is a superstar, bro. She is a superstar. Like, she has such great personality. She comes across as the villain, and she doesn't mind being the villain. She's not like, I'm pretending to be the cool wrestling villain. She's I'm in here to kick your butt because I'm just a bad person like that. You know what I mean? That's the way she comes across. That's the way she acts while she's interacting with her opponent in the ring, and it's really good, man. You love to hate her throughout the match. She's got superstar written all over her, man. She's gonna be dope, really dope.
Guys, if you haven't seen it, go on the WWE Network and watch her match against Kairi Sane. That was a star-making performance for me.
It was. It really was. Yo, what, the 450? Oh, man.
And the whips. Very few heels can rile up the crowd during the match.
I'm telling you, man, we're going to look back. NXT is in what I would call, I don't know if we call this the second or third generation, but NXT is in a bit of a resurgence right now. And
it took a little time to replenish the roster.
Right. But NXT went through that original era, then it kind of went through the era with all the TNA guys, and now they're in an era where, they're bringing in a lot of ROH guys, and but the women have also gone through eras, right? And so, you had that original era, the Charlotte, Becky, Sasha era. And then, you had what I'll just call the Asuka, Bayley, Nia Jax era, right? And
Eva
then
Marie.
Oh, God. Yeah. But, NXT is so good, they were even finding something useful for Eva Marie. Remember when they did that thing with where they made it look like they were trying to set up for her to win against Bayley?
They got Eva Marie over at a part where the Full Sail crowd just wanted to bury her into the ground.
It was really well done because it was taking what the people already think and what they already feel, and it was using it as part of the storyline, which is always really smart. You know what I mean? Because, I always say this, wrestling always is, always was, and always will be at its best when it's blurring the lines between what's scripted and what's not. You know what I mean? What's real and what's fake. Like, that's when wrestling is always at its best. And so they were doing that with Eva Marie, and people were buying into it because you were like, yo, I hate her because she's the corporate favorite. And they put on screen that corporate's doing everything to make it easier for her. And so it was a perfect storyline for her to walk right into, but then she decided she wanted to get famous selling sunglasses on Instagram. And good for her.
Hey, if I could sell sunglasses on Instagram, I'd be out of here.
That's true. You also don't have as good a boobs as her.
We'll see about that.
All right. So I want to get into a little yes, please, no, please, shall we?
Oh, please.
All right. So, Sach, tell me, what is it in the world of wrestling this week that you like? What did you see from WWE that had you saying yes, please?
Terrance, I'm not crazy, but I think I'm coming around on Dolph Ziggler.
Really?
Yes. All right. Don't give me that look, Terrance. All right. Don't smack me either. I think Dolph's entrance gimmick, it's a silly little time waster, but it's starting to grow on me.
Rashes grow on you too.
Well, they have ointment for that.
Exactly.
But, all right, so guys, nostalgia is a powerful drug, right? When I go home, first thing I do is I sing and dance to the Billy Gunn theme song. I love seeing the old entrances. It's like just a funny little intrude. And Dolph's entrances, they're actually putting effort into it. Like, they're putting DZ in the Titantron. They're not wasting too much time. He's just popping out, doing 2 or 3 entrances, and then running back, and then having a little bit of humor. Here's why I like it. 1, nostalgia. 2, I like seeing... If it's better to have a funny time-wasting gimmick than to not be on the show at all.
True.
The way Luke Harper and Eric Rowan have been gone for the last 4 months.
Wow.
And we haven't seen Mike Kanellis or Maria in the last 2 months either.
True again.
So, I don't know where this storyline's going to go, and I don't think the entrance gimmick is going to raise him to championship level, but much like with Sandow's impersonation gimmick and Charlie Haas's impersonation gimmick, they've got a well of history that they could stretch it out for a couple of weeks before I start getting impatient.
Well, I think you're right. And one thing that WWE has done so well is they've conditioned us to expect something other than a wrestling show when we turn on SmackDown and Raw. So something like this, right, where this is all building of the character, right, it's an entertaining way to fill a few minutes. Now, he's coming off as extremely bitter here. To me, it's, moderately entertaining. Like, I'm not that into it, to be honest with you. But it is, interesting and funny to see where he's going to go each week with the entrances.
I think the crowd was chanting this during this week's segment, and I don't know if WWE's bold enough to pull the trigger on this. Have him doing CM Punk's entrance in Chicago.
Oh, man.
I feel like that's the logical end to the storyline.
That couldn't be the... Why would that be the end to the storyline?
The logical progression to the storyline. I don't know who's going to come out and beat him up, though.
That's what I'm saying. I think I've been seeing some inklings that this is leading to something between him and Bobby Roode, because Bobby Roode's whole thing is the glorious entrance, right? And so he's going to be the entrance hater, then he's going to fall to somebody with a great entrance. Ultimately, this is leading to Ziggler taking the L, ultimately.
Well, I guess you're saying Roode won't give in. He won't give in till he's victorious.
Exactly. It pays to be rude. All right. Final thoughts on this?
Where are we next week? Because
You're just dying to get to Chicago with this.
Yeah, I want to know. All right. Punk's entrance, Daniel Bryan's entrance. I also want to see him do Christian and Edge's entrance whenever we're in Canada next.
That's good. That's really good. And it's cool because obviously it's reinforcing that it's not just the entrance with these people, right? It's the entire character, but he's choosing to focus on the entrance as something to downplay them. And again, it's not like he hasn't had an elaborate entrance himself. You know?
He did the title belt on his butt and shaking it,
right,
sort of thing.
Right. That's all been his thing. So he's had plenty of entrance gimmick himself. It's just, Dolph, people don't like you. They're over it. We're over it. And I'm on to the next thing. Okay, so here's what I like this week, Sach. On Raw, they did a nice little segment where this wasn't that nice of a segment. It was a match between Nia and Alexa, okay? Now, they've been on again, off again with this frenemy thing between Nia and Alexa. They
kind of like you and I.
Yes, that's right, exactly. Wait till after the show, all right? They won't let Nia and Alexa just go ahead and have their feud. You know, it's always 1 second Nia's the beast, she's the monster, she's the going after the title, just hungry, focused on the title, and the next second Alexa's manipulating her, and she's she never quite falls for it like a dummy, but they never get into a real match between Nia and Alexa. And this week they did it again, right? Like they were having a Nia and Alexa match, but then Alexa tried to run away, and Sasha came out, and then blah 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 blah. We get the match, we get the finish. Nia defeats her, continuing the storyline that Nia's dominant, and to make it look like she should be the favorite heading into the match at No Mercy. But then, after the match, we get the return of Bayley. And let me tell you why I like this. Because if you go back and you watch that clip, Bayley's face, all business. All business when she came out. And I like that because Bayley is a wrestling fan, and people who are wrestling fans, they understand wrestling psychology. I hate to use words that, people like wrestlers use in podcasts, but they do understand wrestling psychology, and they understand you have to convey your emotion to the fans. And when you're coming back, a return from an injury that cost you a title match at the second biggest show of the year, you got nothing to be smiling about, right? And so when she came out, her face was all business, and I loved it. And you know what I was thinking for a second? I was thinking they were going to switch it up and have her turn on Sasha.
Ooh.
I thought that would have been dope. But Sasha's not a good guy, and I don't know how Bayley would be as a bad guy. But I was thinking for a second that might happen. For the rest of time, until we get this Sasha-Bayley feud, we're going to be anticipating, holding our breath, every time Sasha and Bayley are in the ring together, that one of them is going to do something dirty to the other one.
Well, I hope this doesn't turn into the John Cena heel turn where we're waiting for 13 years.
That's true. I don't think I'll be waiting that long. I'll just stop caring before that's over. But yeah, so Bayley coming out with an attitude, with a purpose, and being a little less goofy, that gets my yes, please.
How did you feel about them giving away Alexa versus Nia on Raw?
Well, okay, to think about it, like I said, I don't feel like they got, the match had the proper build that it should, right? A wrestling match is all about, it's a fake fight, right? So, but you're supposed to make us feel like this fake fight is a big deal, right? And they didn't do that. They didn't make this feel like it was a big deal. So for that reason, I don't like it. Where do I think this title is going at No Mercy? I don't think it's going with Nia. For whatever reason, I just don't think I don't know. They don't seem to be gearing everything towards putting it on Nia. I mean, maybe they are, but it just feels like, they're doing the thing where Nia was in the ring, and then they had all three girls come and gang up on her, which is exactly what they did at WrestleMania, right? That's the story they tell every time they get into a match. Nia is bigger than all of them, so they all have to gang up and take Nia out. And, the more I'm actually thinking about this may be leading to a Nia win.
Well, be careful. I feel like we're in an in-between zone where they're throwing all the women into a title match, but the shadow of Asuka is hanging over the Raw title picture. We know she's coming soon. And so...
And we also, what else we know? That no one is ready for Asuka!
Well, the writers might be, because they're trying to, I guess, get a lot... I felt with that match that they were trying to get that out of the way before we get Alexa versus Asuka.
Dang, Sach, you might be right. But Here's what I don't like. See, okay. Sometimes I feel like WWE gets in its own way. And this is, I feel like, one of those times. Because of what you're saying, it makes sense, right? Alexa right now is the biggest villain, right? Character-wise. She's the biggest villain among the women's division. Asuka's going to come in as the super hot superstar, and they're probably going to do Alexa Asuka right away and have Asuka take the title from her, and then have Asuka hold the title until she drops it to Charlotte at WrestleMania. That's probably how this is going to go. Now, what I think would be a smart way to go about this is have Nia absolutely dominate everyone, and then have Nia hold the title until, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, when she loses it to Asuka. I think that's the way to go. You know what I mean? Let Asuka build up, because the Raw audience still doesn't know her. And what we keep seeing time after time is that the Raw audience is not the same audience as the NXT audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Asuka's not going to come in hot just because she was hot on NXT. Like, not to everybody. If they're in the right place where people happen to watch NXT, then she'll come in hot. But if they're not, then, there's a chance people really got to get to know her. And so they got to be careful to make sure that they present Asuka in the right way. So I'm looking forward to see how that goes. All right, Sach. So we heard what you like, but it can't always be all good. So what didn't you like? What did you see from WWE this week that had you saying, no, please?
I'm glad you asked that, Terrance, because as we just talked about, wrestling is good when... In wrestling, you have to make us want to see the fight and build it up and make us want to see these two people clash. I got none of that for Jinder versus Nakamura, and I got a few gripes with this.
Okay.
First of all, having a brown guy say something racist about an Asian guy doesn't make this any better.
Right.
Number two, you could see the awkwardness on Jinder Mahal, the performer's face, when he has to give some of these lines, and you could feel the awkwardness in the crowd and the awkwardness in me. So I want to give you an example of Kevin Owens beating up Shane.
Just for the record, I could not feel the awkwardness in you. Just wanted to clarify that for the audience.
So I want to call us back to Kevin Owens beating up Shane. Kevin is getting booed hard by the crowd, and we want to see Kevin get beat up by Shane at Hell in a Cell.
Right.
When Jinder is making those jokes at Nakamura, and Nakamura isn't good enough at English to battle back with him, it just feels awkward and embarrassing rather than heel heat. I don't feel anger. I don't feel like I want to see Nakamura put Jinder through a table. I feel more like, why am I watching this?
Interesting. Yeah.
And so I hate to give it my no please 3 weeks in a row, but these segments are getting worse. And here's what I think WWE thought. There are two things that I think are coming from the back for WWE. One, these stereotypes that Jinder is making fun of are from 20 years ago.
Right.
Like, Karate Kid the movie is older than WWE's demographic.
That's true.
And number two, here's what I'm afraid of. That WWE is going to take the "that's too far" chant and triple down on the xenophobia next week by having Jinder do a promo of even more "that's too far" stuff.
Were people chanting "that's too far"?
Yeah, the crowd. So he said two things. I think he said "rook" instead of "look."
Oh yeah, I did catch that. I thought that was too far. That crossed the line into mean. The rest of that stuff was just corny. To me, the rest of that stuff was just corny. It was just bad jokes. It was like they're trying to, so the story they're trying to tell is that Jinder is playing up on, he's using what he feels is prejudice against him, and he's using that as an excuse to be prejudiced against Nakamura, right? So he's making it, he's the villain because he's, using prejudice, right?
Saying these people are going to turn on you.
Right. But But in saying that, he's doing all the, again, all the corny jokes, right, about the faces and Godzilla and all the other stuff. But I thought the Rook part, I thought that was too. I thought that was
That's too far?
Yes, I thought that was too far.
And I gotta give props for the crowd. Like, every now and then you hear one person yelling out, "That's racist," or one person yelling out a random phrase. But for the crowd to get together and chant, "That's too far," well, mainstream publications have noticed it, but, Vince, he doesn't think any attention is bad.
That's true.
So...
That's very true.
I want to be able to embrace a Jinder versus Nakamura feud if they were actually dealing with the title, or dealing with Jinder's greed, or dealing with Nakamura being loose and being loose and charismatic while Jinder is hyper serious and gets in his own way. If we actually had a story about their personalities rather than this stuff, and my no please, I don't want to see this get any worse next week.
Man, that's a great call. I think you're absolutely right. And my problem with this from the beginning has been, it's just like, why does their nationalities, why does racism have to be the guts of this story? Like, no matter, you said it perfectly. Having it come from the brown guy to the Asian guy doesn't make it any better, right? It's because we know who's writing this. You know what I mean? Like, we know who's really writing this. This isn't what he thinks. We know this is what WWE thinks is funny, right? That's the problem here, right? That's where this is the problem. It's like, why is it that you can't just tell this story? Like, in a nutshell, this is, character-wise, this is JBL versus Jeff Hardy.
Yeah, actually.
Right? Those are like the character comps for who these guys are, right? And so you wouldn't be telling this story if it was JBL versus Jeff Hardy. So why can't you tell us the story? If this was JBL versus Jeff Hardy, the story would be, JBL's a big sophisticated bully, and he's going to pick on Jeff Hardy because, Jeff Hardy's a country boy, and, he's a free spirit. Right. And all this other stuff. And he's not classy enough, and he's just not on his level. Like, that's the story that they would be telling here. But instead, they have to take the low road. And I just think, to me, it's just, they deserve to be called out on it because it's the lowest common denominator, and they don't give their white audience enough credit that they can be interested in this story without making it about foreign people's prejudice.
Terrance, I'm at the point where I miss John Cena's poop jokes against Big Show.
Not even that. You know what? I'll take more Rook. I'll take more of that. All right. So, my no please is also going to come from SmackDown. My no please is going to be Rusev and Randy Orton. Okay, Rusev and Randy Orton had a completely unscheduled match that ended in 10 seconds.
I didn't even have time to finish a brownie.
Yeah, exactly. We know your talent for devouring a small brownie and without even breathing barely. I don't even know if you tasted on the way down. That's how fast you eat those brownies. But yes, that's how fast Rusev beat Randy Orton here. They had him do the old Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan. Randy Orton got distracted, turned around, got kicked in the face, and pinned in 10 seconds. And I'm like, was this just supposed to be a get back from SummerSlam? Like, I don't understand. What was the point of this? Right? Like, what was the point of this? Like, so you had Rusev take the embarrassing loss at SummerSlam, and now you turn around and have Randy Orton have the embarrassing loss? Like, well, if it's even all the time, if I beat you, then you beat me, who wins the feud?
I mean, I can forgive the even booking if both guys come out looking good. Roman and Strowman come out looking good.
Right.
Rusev and Randy don't. It makes them look like dopes for losing in 10 seconds.
Ding, 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 ding.
It's like the 4'5" guy making fun of the 4'6" guy for being short.
That's good. That's perfect. Oh man, that's really good. So yeah, but you're exactly right, man. Like, you said it perfectly. If you book it evenly and both people come out looking strong, then that's fine, right? But like sometimes, and even, you know, I always have a little bit of a problem with the way they book Charlotte, because I feel like they book her too strong, where she just completely dominates everyone else to the point where they've just ceased to matter once she comes around. But although the women's match on SmackDown was really good this week, but I don't know, man. I'd rather that than this, right? Because if you're going to go, like you said, it's even Steven booking, but nobody comes out looking good. So it's like there's no winners here. And so for that, Rusev and Randy Orton, you get my no, please. All right, Sach. So we heard what you like. We heard what you didn't like. But I want to know what you are looking forward to, what you're hoping to see. Now, don't forget, we still have No Mercy predictions coming up. So don't jump too far into that. But I want to hear your please. What have you seen from WWE this week that is making you say, please?
My please is WWE, please keep the tag team magic going on Raw. So for the past 3 weeks, we've been talking about the Usos and the New Day, who are by far the best tag team feud this year. But Raw has picked up steam with the reunion of the Shield, with Cesaro getting on the mic and bantering back at the Shield, and then with the club getting involved in a match this week. It was kind of a longish match, but it was exciting, and it feels like there's some energy going on. It feels like there's some energy going on with the revitalized Shield going through facing down the other tag teams. And so for this coming week, I'm feeling the energy between Cesaro and Rollins. I'm feeling the dynamic between Ambrose and Rollins. I'm feeling the dynamic between Sheamus and Cesaro. I'm hooked into this tag team feud here on Raw.
You know, man, I gotta tell you, I'm the complete opposite. Like, when this came on TV, I just felt like this was a long time killing segment. I don't know, man. That's what they've done to me, because I feel like we're all waiting for this tag team partnership between Ambrose and Rollins to lead to Ambrose turning on Rollins. And so it seems like anything that's happening in the in-between time just doesn't matter, because I feel like I'm just waiting for the conclusion of this.
So it's like, so for you, it's like what we talked about in the women's division, except Asuka's not showing up here. We're just spinning around waiting for the Ambrose turn.
No, because in the women's division, at least, like, I'm interested to see, like, I still have interest there. Like I still want to see Sasha get back on top. Of the division. I still want to see Sasha get back on top of the division. And I also still want to see Nia get her shot to be on top of the division. And so I still have interest in what's happening with those characters. I'm also interested in the development of Bayley, right? So I have interest in those characters. I just don't have any interest in these tag teams. Like, Ambrose and Rollins, like, they're just, whatever. And then the Gallows and Anderson, man, they have killed them dead, man. Those guys. Whew. And, Cesaro, I'm just like, whatever.
I will say this to Ambrose. I feel like WWE doesn't know how to write Ambrose unless he's either in the world title picture or in a story with Seth Rollins. So it's like, this is better than having Ambrose sit around and sing with Elias.
That's true. Who wants to walk with Elias, by the way?
Well, I got new running shoes just to walk.
Yeah, all right. So my please is also going to come from Raw, okay? Now, they've been trying really hard to get Jason Jordan over, as the kids say, okay? And it hasn't been working. He's been falling basically flat. But I think they may have gotten on to something this week. This week, they put him in the situation where The Miz was running down Kurt Angle. Jason Jordan comes out, and by the way, he comes out absent his stupid smile. Okay, he comes out with a serious business look on his face, goes down to the ring, gets in the Miz's face. They get into a confrontation. This leads to a match later in the evening. Jason Jordan ends up coming out on top. It was a good match also. Jason Jordan is kind of like Shayna Baszler in the sense where you're going to have to put him in the ring with people who can hide his deficiencies, right? You're going to have to put him in the ring with people who can also wrestle. Because he just doesn't have enough in his arsenal, man. He's got a couple of throws, belly to bellies, and that type of stuff. But other than that, he doesn't do much.
You got to put him in the ring with someone who can make his flaws obsolete.
Yes, that'd actually be really smart. That'd be really good. So yes, so what they got to do is they've got to just keep putting Jason Jordan in the ring with people who can let him have good matches where people will get behind him and start. First of all, he's got to get better as a wrestler, but I think The Miz is the perfect foil for Jason Jordan. So Jason Jordan won the 4-way match on Raw, and now he has a shot at No Mercy against The Miz for the Intercontinental title. And here's where I'm saying, please, okay? Do not hotshot this. Do not put the Intercontinental title on Jason Jordan at No Mercy. Let him chase. The money is in the chase. Let Miz beat him and then berate him and beat him again and then berate him and then beat him again and then berate him to where, it's like, I don't even, maybe Miz is on a level too high for me. And then let him get one more shot, and maybe then you do it. But every time he loses and The Miz keeps beating him down for it, it's going to make people want more and more to see him actually overcome The Miz.
And guys, if you follow us on Twitter at TW Talking Bout, at Sach and Dave C, we had a bit of a conversation during the week on what we want to see happen with Jason Jordan. And I'm with you, Terrance. I feel like it's too early for JJ to take the title off The Miz. And I want to see, he's got some steam from this feud. So I want to see him go through Axel, go through Bo Dallas, maybe go through Elias, and then take down Miz.
No, I agree 100%. You're right. They should have him just do more and more. And by the way, now that you mentioned that, this Miz Taraj thing, I don't know if this is going to work out well for Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel. I mean, it's already working out well in the sense that they weren't doing anything before.
Bo Dallas has seriously upped his fashion game. Or lowered it.
Depending on who you ask, right? But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just don't, as of yet, see really opportunities for these guys to get a chance to display their character and grow a little more. Hopefully that's coming in the future, because these groups can be a vehicle for guys to really grow their character, and I'm hoping that they get to that point, but I don't see it just yet.
Now I'll give them Bo and Axel the benefit of the doubt because Miz got Daniel Bryan over to an audience that hadn't heard of him. He got Alex Riley red hot over for a month before. And then he got Damian Mizdow over until WWE didn't know what to do with him afterwards. So he can get people over when they turn on him.
Yeah.
So the problem with Bo and Curtis is they don't have much personality. So They got to work on that.
Exactly.
Before the story has a conclusion.
They got to find some personality. That's been their Achilles heel this whole time. All right, so that's our yes please, no please, please please for this week. All right, Sach, so what we're going to do is we're going to do some No Mercy predictions. I mean, we can just talk about it a little bit. We don't have to go full scale, full on prediction here. But I'm just curious as to, where you think this stuff is going to play out, how you see this stuff going. So let's start with the match we were just talking about. We got The Miz with Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas going against Jason Jordan for the Intercontinental title. What do you see going on there?
I think JJ puts up the fighting underdog babyface thing, and Miz wins with shenanigans.
I agree, and I think that's the way that should go, because like we were just saying, this, again, the money's in the chase. He's got to keep chasing it so that people can grow to actually like him, or they can Roman Reigns this thing and push him right to the top, and everybody be like, screw you, Jason Jordan. Yeah, exactly. All right, we got Alexa Bliss versus Nia Jax versus Sasha Banks versus Bayley versus Emma in a 5-way for the WWE Raw Women's Championship. What do you see going on here?
I want for weeks on Twitter I've been saying give Emma a chance. I think WWE is going to give Emma the pinfall in that Nia. I think Nia wins the title by pinning Emma.
I could definitely see that happening. Because that way none of your stars have to take the L. But they recently gave Emma new music, which I loved her evil Emma music. They had no reason to change that, but they gave her new music, which I I don't like. The old music was good.
You know what's funny? The producers who make the WWE music actually went on, with all the negative tweets about her new music, they went on Twitter and said, hey guys, we didn't make this. Somebody else did.
This is probably another one of those things where she just showed up to work one day and Vince was like, what is this music? I hate it.
Burn it down.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Then we've got Neville defending the WWE Cruiserweight Championship against Enzo Amore. What do you see? What's he going on?
Ooh, I think Enzo's going to win it here. And I think the whole story has been about Enzo using cheap tricks to beat everybody else in the Cruiserweight division. A completely heelish thing. It's just that he's going up against somebody the audience hates more. So I think, not hate as like gender hate, but that he's going up against the one bigger heel in the Cruiserweight division than he is, even though he's a babyface. I think Enzo wins with cheap tricks, and I think a heel turn is coming in a couple months.
A heel turn by Enzo?
A heel turn by Enzo, and I think either Cedric or Tozawa will feud with him down the line.
You know, heel Enzo would be really interesting because WWE really hates him, dude. Did you see what they did to him this past week?
Oh, God, they got the Braun treatment.
Oh, my God. Yo, it was funny. Like, I tried not... No, I didn't. I laughed hard. Okay, when Braun came out, knocked Enzo on his butt, and Enzo fell with his lower back directly on that microphone. And you could tell because he rolled over and slowly pulled it out from behind his back. And I was just like, yo... You can tell that hurt. Yeah, man. I mean, the Cruiserweight stuff usually just misses me, but I think Enzo, in a sneaky way, might bring some life to 205 Live. Because he has a reputation, he has a fan following, and I mean, I don't know, like, people are only interested in 205 Live if you were already interested in 205 Live. You're not going to get interested in 205 Live. Maybe if you want to see what Enzo's doing, you'll look at 205 Live.
You know what I was thinking? If John Bones Jones quits UFC and comes to WWE, he'd be in 205 Live.
That's hilarious, yo. That would be amazing.
Same thing with McGregor and Mayweather.
Oh, God. I would pay to see that. Oh, my God. It'd be so amazing. Oh, Conor McGregor came in. It was just like...
Conor versus Enzo.
That would be amazing. Okay. All right. We've got Finn Balor versus Bray Wyatt in the Who Could Care Less match.
Well, I call this the cult leader without a cult versus a club leader without a club match.
Ooh, that's good.
I think Bray Wyatt should win here because Bray Wyatt loses most of his big feuds, and Finn hasn't shown me enough on Raw to take the next... Or Finn or whatever his storylines were, haven't shown me enough that he should take the next step and climb back into the title picture. I think Bray should win this feud, and I don't know who he should go on to feud with next, but I feel like Bray needs a win here.
So Finn Balor is kind of just middling doing stuff. But they keep him doing something, right? And
better than not being on TV at all.
Yes. But they never forget to put him on, okay? And he has a great crowd reaction when he comes out. I think Finn Balor's winning the Royal Rumble.
Ooh.
I know.
We're looking at the Royal Rumble.
I know. Listen, man, it just hit me. I was like, Finn Balor, like Bray Wyatt is somebody who's, he's not considered main event right now, but he's been WWE champion. Therefore, he has some name value. He has some name recognition. And so there's something to feuding with and beating him, right? And so you drag this out. You keep him doing this until it's time for the next thing or whatever. And whatever the next thing will be should get us closer to January. And then maybe come January, your surprise winner of the Royal Rumble is Finn Balor.
Well, that blows out my prediction of Elias. But I'm ready to see if they pull the trigger on Finn and where they go with that.
Listen, man, they should, why not, man? And your WrestleMania main event, I don't think they'd do it, but your WrestleMania main event could be Finn Balor facing Braun Strowman for the Universal title.
Ooh.
Is that not a WrestleMania main event you would want to see?
That's a huge match.
A match no one has seen before, but you think they're going to do it? No. They're going to do Roman effing Reigns versus Brock effing Lesnar, which I'm sure will be a good match, but nobody wants to, you know what I mean? Like, I would be more interested in Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar as an undercard match.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not interested in Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the title. I'm just not. You know what I mean? Because we all know that the end game is Roman as the champion. We all know that. And I don't know. I don't have anything against. I'm not one of these Roman haters, but they also haven't told me a story that makes me feel like I want to see Roman as champion. Right? You know what I mean? But I think it would be an interesting, exciting match, something we've never seen before. Two young stars main event in WrestleMania in Braun Strowman versus Finn Balor. I don't know, how young is Finn Balor?
He's in his mid-30s, actually.
Oh, yeah, he's not that young.
Long career in New Japan.
Right, exactly. He's not that young, but he's WWE
looks
young.
young.
He does look young. So that's even more reason. The time is now. I'm just saying. All right, so now we got tag team turmoil. Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins versus Cesaro and Sheamus for the WWE Raw Tag Team Championship. What you got?
I'm picking the Shield here because they're the hotter team, and it feels like their partnership isn't going to collapse yet.
Right. No, I agree. And as we were talking about this earlier, I kind of realized that, you know, this is where this is going to go. Like, they're going to have a nice title run, and then eventually they'll be overcome. They'll be overcome because of some of their own dissension or miscommunication. At which point Ambrose will be like, "Screw you, Seth Rollins," and then we'll be on to Ambrose Rollins Part 17. Because I really want to see that too. All right. And then we've got this huge double main event. The first of which is John Cena versus Roman Reigns. What you got?
I think it's going to end with Roman beating down Cena. I can see Cena getting the win and then Roman brutalizing him afterwards, or Roman getting the win, and then Roman getting the win, but using a lot of ref knockdown, chair shot stuff. I think it's going to end with Cena taking a beating and then leaving for a little while. Okay.
And does that mean Roman's a bad guy?
No.
Roman will probably get cheered for that. Like, they'll probably come into the ring and carry Roman to the back like he's a victorious coach.
No, I think the audience likes Cena now.
Dude, but if you saw on Monday night the promo that Roman cut on Cena with Cena not being there, Roman was high-fiving people as he was walking down the aisle.
See ya, movie star.
Yeah, man. And, yo, people, that's one thing about WWE fans that they're just like, I mean, and even me, I'm not the guy that I'm like, oh, you know, the wrestler owes me something because I'm a wrestling fan. Like, I'm not that guy. But like I was saying before, man, like, when you saw John Cena in the ring with Roman last week, he didn't even have a haircut. John Cena is a guy that keeps his appearance immaculate. So things like haircuts don't slip John Cena's mind. You know what I mean? Like, John Cena's a well-dressed guy. He keeps an immaculate house, if you believe what you see on Total Divas. He has a pristine car collection, right? Like, he's not a guy who forgets to get a haircut. So that tells me that he's already on to his next thing, that he's not invested in what's going on here. And as a wrestling fan, that is annoying.
Guys, come for the wrestling talk, stay for the fashion talk.
Exactly. Stay for the don't get us into John Cena's pocket squares and his tie knots.
No, I'll save that for Fandango and Breeze.
Yeah. Ooh.
By the way,
rest in peace, those guys.
By the way,
didn't they show up on 205 Live?
Oh yeah, they had to arrest Drew Gulak for fashion crimes.
Do you like seeing the crossover, adding more guys to
I did. It was an exciting development in Drew's storyline, which is a storyline begging for people to come out and interfere. But I like seeing more people interact because it doesn't feel like the show is isolated.
Right. Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think that's kind of what they learned once they put Enzo on. And there's probably a tiny uptick of more attention on 205 Live, is that, hey, let's take some guys we're not doing anything with or guys we just don't like and put them on 205 Live, and let's see if we can get some more eyeballs on the show.
Hey, Terrance, my friends and I are going to see a movie tonight, and that movie ticketing website that starts with an F?
Yes.
I call it Fandango after 4 years of watching Fandango in WWE.
That's hilarious. Do you say, can we get my tickets off Fandango?
I remember when he was doing the pronunciation gimmick in 2013 that people online would be like, no, he doesn't fart. He lets the A breathe.
That's awesome. Okay, and here we are with the main event. This is a WrestleMania quality main event that we're getting at No Mercy. Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman for the WWE Universal Championship. What do you see going on here?
Oh, man. I think they're going to keep it on Brock. I want them to put it on Braun. Braun is what the Roman Reigns push would have been if people liked Roman.
Yeah.
He has just impressed at every stage, and he feels like the one guy that is going to conquer the beast. Samoa Joe had his thing where he's like, all right, I'm going to come out gunning for you. I'm going to catch you in a submission. I'm going to choke you out. Mm-hmm. You caught me slipping. Okay. Mm-hmm. Braun feels like, remember when Lesnar was facing The Undertaker, how Lesnar felt like the one guy that could punch through the mystique of The Undertaker?
Right.
Braun feels like the one guy that can knock out the mystique of Lesnar.
I think you're onto something there, man. You're right, though. Braun does feel... And Braun is in a special space, man. Braun feels like the one guy who is on the same level with Brock Lesnar and on the same level with Roman Reigns. And in no case would it be a disappointment to see Braun beat Brock or Braun beat Roman. And so Braun Strowman has walked into a very, very, very special place. And to his credit, he's done a tremendous job in this role. I think Brock retains the title. Now, the problem I have with that is the stories that they've been telling us on Raw is that Brock can't mess with Roman. Is that Brock can't mess with Braun. Every time they come out, they meet face to face, and Braun takes Brock out. And so, with telling us the story that way, I don't see how you can logically walk away from No Mercy with Braun not being the winner, because he's dominated Brock at every possible turn. It makes sense to put the title on Strowman.
Yeah, I'm ready for the Braun era.
I'm ready for the
Raw is Braun.
Braun! So, I'm 100% ready for the Braun Strowman era as champion, man. I think it's time, man. He's good. He's young. He can take the grueling physical toll that the schedule will take on you. I think he's built for that. And why not, man? You know what I mean? Like, why not? He's, again, one of the few people that we, the audience, think can keep the title safe from Roman Reigns. And so, for that reason, I say put the title on Braun, but I don't think they will. I think Brock comes out of this with the title. Ultimately, I think the goal is leading back to Brock versus Roman at WrestleMania. And I don't know, man. But I tell you what, if Braun comes out here with the title, then it's going to be what I said. It's going to be Finn Balor versus Braun Strowman at WrestleMania.
Ooh.
So we'll see. Those are things to watch. Finn's going over Bray. No question. No question.
So, Terrance, looking past No Mercy, It looks like WWE's plopped another big event on their calendar.
What'd they plop?
Well, in November, it looks like they're bringing back one of the old WCW names. Starrcade.
Oh boy. Okay. So I did see this. And man, I wasn't like overly thrilled with it, man. I wasn't like, because I feel like WWE has done so much to disparage the WCW name, and they've done so much to educate the current audience, the current generation, the wrestling fans of the last 20 years, that WCW was just, backyard, southern, toothless hillbilly wrestling, and they only got good for a few weeks when Eric Bischoff spent up all Ted Turner's money and used WWE stars, and then because they were idiots, they fell all over themselves, right? So that's the narrative that WWE has told regarding WCW. And so things like Starrcade were a special thing to people who, like myself, grew up in a WCW territory. I grew up in rural North Carolina, and WCW was the option, or it was NWA when I was a kid, and then, you know, it later became WCW. But to me, during the Monday Night Wars, Nitro was option number one, and WWE was the other thing. Now, eventually, WWE became a better show, and I just started watching that more. But I don't know. I just never liked the way that WWE has handled nostalgia regarding WCW. I think they've bastardized the U.S. title. They definitely bastardized Sting. And, you know, I don't know. So I have no faith that WWE will do justice to something that was a big deal amongst those in the Carolinas and, you know, those in, you know, those people who were fans of the NWA and WCW and, by extension, Starrcade, obviously.
So I'm going to give you two fun facts, and then I'll get into some of the debate that's been raging on the internet. Fun fact, if AJ Styles gets into the title picture, he will be the first, or if AJ Styles is on the card, he will be the first person to have appeared at WrestleMania, Bound for Glory, Wrestle Kingdom, and Starrcade.
Oh, man.
In fact, two other people have appeared at Wrestle Kingdom, WrestleMania, and Starrcade, and I'll leave that as this week's trivia question. Ooh. Who are the only two people to appear at a WrestleMania, a Starrcade, and a Wrestle Kingdom?
Oh, man. That's pretty good.
So the next thing, so there's a bit of a debate raging online. When the name Starrcade was announced...
I think I know who they are, but go.
Okay, so Cody, formerly Cody Rhodes, was talking about, hey, if you're going to use the name of the pay-per-view that my dad made famous, at least book Goldust.
Right.
To which Michael Hayes got into a thing like, all right, hey, let's have a tag match. Why don't you come back? They had... Other wrestlers chimed in. So there are two schools of thought on the internet on this. One is that Cody feels slighted in that they're using things that the Rhodes family used to make themselves stars without really putting over Dusty and Goldust and Cody as if Vince doesn't want to admit that they were great wrestling minds or wrestling talent. The other school of thought is that Cody has sour grapes and that WWE did him well by giving him a decade run. They've employed Goldust many times. They had Dusty basically run development, and Cody is just putting his own ego in the way, and that he's not as big a star as he is to be demanding such special treatment from WWE. What do you think?
I think I hate people. I mean, like, yo, when people... People on the internet who chime in defense of companies that aren't putting any money in their pocket, they're stupid to me. Like, why are you jumping in defending the honor of WWE? Unless your last name is McMahon, unless you are getting a great dividend from WWE stock, shut up. WWE doesn't care about you or what you think. Okay, like, so I think people that jump in and just start trying to defend WWE's motives and stuff they know nothing about, like, to me that's being a stupid fanboy. Okay, that's being a super stupid fanboy. And so, no respect for those people. But I will say this, from an objective perspective here, if you look at what Cody did in WWE, Cody knocked out of the park everything they gave him to do. Even Stardust, which was terrible, Cody was fully committed to that. And he did as best he could with that, right? But they had no plans for it. They had no plans to use it. I contend that when Cody was doing the shattered face thing, I think it was like 2011 he was doing that, and I thought that was the window to make Cody WWE champion. You know what I mean? Like, I thought he was doing some of his best work. It was a featured program, and they just decided not to go with him. But, dude, like, think about some of the people who have been given chances instead of Cody Rhodes. The Miz, right? Like, oh, man, like, who else? Who else has been, like, a WWE person put in a high-level spot that is just, like, really not done well with it? I mean... You can look at, like, all the struggles that Roman Reigns has had. I mean, like, Roman Reigns has all the tools, but it's not like the fans were automatically receptive to him. Like Cody, he was effective in every character role they gave him to do. And so anybody who would say that, he's not as talented as he thinks he is or anything like that, to me that's just stupid. And look at what he's doing now. He's elevating Ring of Honor and the Bullet Club. Yo, that Bullet Club shit would be dead in the water right now if it wasn't for Cody Rhodes.
I'm actually going to take the counterpoint here. I feel like he'd be just another WWE guy in New Japan if he wasn't in Bullet Club, because guys who aren't in factions don't usually get featured in New Japan since everybody's part of a group.
Mm-hmm.
And he's one of the few people in line to replace Kenny Omega in 2019, which wouldn't happen had he not been in Bullet Club.
Okay, so in that theory, it's a mutually beneficial relationship, but I think if Cody Rhodes were not the head man of the Bullet Club, right? If he were not the face of the Bullet Club, who would be the American face of the Bullet Club?
I don't know if he counts as American, but I think Tama Tonga, who you guys may know as...
But the Bullet Club is a big thing for like ROH too, right?
Oh, yes. It used to be Adam Cole because he was an ROH guy that they shared with New Japan, and I think right now it's Marty Scurll.
So again, what would they have if it wasn't for Cody?
Well, they would have pushed probably Marty Scurll on the U.S. side.
Would anybody give a F?
I think so.
I think not.
Well,
I think the people who would care would be the same people who care already, and that's what I'm talking about. And this is where it comes in. It's about drawing in the bigger audience. We're talking in this situation. We're talking about me, right? The guy who wouldn't go out of his way to watch ROH, the guy who wouldn't go out of his way to watch New Japan, but I am going to watch because I want to see what Cody's going to do. That's what he brings to the table that Marty Scurll and Kenny Omega and Adam Cole, baby, do not. Okay, and so I think Cody actually, again, like I said, I think Cody has taken that Bullet Club up to another level of visibility that they would not have otherwise had. I'm not saying they were nothing, but I do think that it kind of blew out of control, and I think that a lot of people, if you saw the Young Bucks as the head of that, then in my opinion, it loses credibility with some people. And so you give somebody, you have to put somebody else that people just want to see more. You know what I mean? And so that's why Cody is the perfect guy to be the head man for that.
I'm still going to disagree because when AJ Styles left, New Japan kind of went all in on elevating a junior heavyweight, Kenny Omega, into being their top star. And he's probably the biggest draw outside of WWE. Ring of Honor Chicago is in line for their biggest event ever, and they haven't even announced who his opponent is. 25% of New Japan World subscriptions have come from North America since Omega and before Cody was announced. So I still think Cody does need to work on capturing more of the audience before 2019.
I mean, you can always try to grow, right? But I just think that he brings a level of name notoriety that did not otherwise exist in the Bullet Club as currently constructed. I think, the Bullet Club has been floating on a big name guy as their head man when they had AJ Styles that made it more of a big deal, and then adding Cody Rhodes, that was obviously a big help. And so, I don't know, man. You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't know. It remains to be seen. But final thoughts on the Starrcade?
Ooh, I hope the main event isn't Jinder versus Nakamura.
Ooh.
I don't know who. I hope the main event is actually going to be Jinder versus Styles or AJ getting involved in it.
I just hope they treat it like a big deal.
Here's what's funny. It's it's less than a week before Survivor Series. Or less than a week after Survivor Series.
There's a lot of people who will look at this as a chance to, like I said, kind of reestablish to bring back a really good tradition. Like people who are my age, right, will look at this like, okay, if you guys do this right, then this will be something where it doesn't have to be a pay-per-view, but it could be an annual tradition that I remember from when I was a kid, right? And now, if this is something you bring back now and make it like a thing that I want to come and go to every year, it can be a big event. And so...
Well, because they can't bring back ECW One Night Stand or Barely Legal.
Oh, God. Nobody wants that. Nobody asked for that. Nobody needs that. All right, Sach. Let's see. Anything else outside WWE in the world of wrestling going on that you want to kind of hit on?
You know, Terrance, I'm just glad they named John Morrison Johnny Impact instead of Johnny Glow. Wait, is this true, what we've been hearing, that they don't own the name to Global Force Wrestling?
Oh, man. All right, so might as well go ahead and get into this. So I had such apprehension about Jeff Jarrett being the guy to take over and run the show for Anthem Sports when they, purchased TNA and everything. I thought that Jeff Jarrett had always gotten a pass for a lot of the things people didn't like about TNA. Everybody shot their blame on Vince Russo and Dixie Carter, but Jeff Jarrett was right there for all of that, right? So I wasn't really big on the idea of Jeff Jarrett. And then when he took over, he tried to, make this slogan, "Make Impact Great Again." And I'm like, time out.
I'm tired of that slogan.
Dude, seriously. I'm like, this is so tone deaf of you. Like, regardless of what you think, right? Clearly, you're modifying the slogan of a very polarizing public figure. Why would you automatically alienate people by doing that? Like that to me was the first thing that was a huge red flag and showed huge questionable judgment on his part. Go ahead, look like you want to say something.
And make Jarrett think again.
Yeah, make him think, period. Make him put the bottle down. How about that? Yeah. So listen, all of the stuff that exists online, you can read up on all of it. But in a nutshell, here's kind of what went on. The people at Anthem they had their eye on Jeff Jarrett because apparently they didn't completely trust him, although they gave him this sweetheart deal, which involved purchasing his company, Global Force Wrestling, which didn't really exist. Right? It didn't really exist.
It was more of a name and some unaired episodes.
Yeah, that's all it really was. So it didn't really exist, right? And so, but because they needed to get rid of the stink of the TNA name, they decided they were going to purchase the name Global Force Wrestling, let Jeff Jarrett, kind of run that, have some sort of ownership stake, yada, 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 yada. But apparently they didn't dot all the I's and cross all the T's, because when they told Jeff Jarrett to kick rocks, it was apparent that they also didn't own the name GFW. So since then, and because they don't know what Jeff Jarrett is going to do now that he's on the outside, they don't want to come to some sort of legal situation where they're airing all this product under the name GFW and Jeff Jarrett owns the name GFW. So they've since had to rebrand again. They haven't made like an official announcement saying, hey, we're losing the GFW name, now we're just going back to Impact. They've just stopped using the GFW branding and they've just kind of started using the Impact branding again.
So that means Eli Drake could be the final Global Force Global Champion.
That's interesting, you know what I mean? Because I don't think they're going to bring back the TNA titles, right? They still got all those GFW titles, and they've got TV taped up until November 5th, which is Bound for Glory. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see like what they do and how they proceed going forward. Now, here's an interesting thing that I think I like about what's happening right now. So, they've decided they're going to tape Bound for Glory in Ottawa, Canada. And so it's not going to be in the Impact Zone, which I think is a good idea because I just feel like that show needs to get in front of a fresh paying audience. You know what I mean? I feel like that show just needs to get out in front of a fresh paying audience. And they're planning to, they've got this venue. It's like a small hall and they're going to do a week worth of taping like they would do at Universal Studios. But in theory, these are going to be people paying to come and see the show. So it's going to cost you the same thing to produce the show that it would cost you in Universal Studios, but you're going to get at least some gate of paying people. So I like it because I feel like you gotta step out and you gotta take a chance, right? Like the big famous story about WrestleMania is, Vince McMahon and Linda McMahon, they basically, mortgaged their whole futures to pay for the WrestleMania 1. And if they didn't take that chance, who knows if WWE would be in existence today. So the Anthem guys, they're deciding they're gonna take a chance. They're putting Impact back out on the road at least somewhat. They're taking it out of the Impact zone. They're, I don't know, maybe they're going to, redo everything in Canada, but at least they're making some effort to make it look different, to change the way it's looked for years in the Impact Zone, and at least I think that's a step towards trying to create some sort of positive buzz for this company. What do you think?
Well, I guess the goal is to not be a dummy, yeah.
All right, Sach, tell the people where they can find you on social.
Find me at Twitter, on Twitter, at Sach and Dave C.
All right, man. So, Sach, thanks again for kicking it with us, and we'll see all you guys next week. How was that for a show? We gave you Impact Talk. We gave you Raw, SmackDown. You got some Sach in there. We gave you everything. We even gave you predictions. We never do predictions. I don't know if we're going to always do predictions, but today it felt appropriate just because No Mercy is loaded up with some dope-looking matches. And you guys couldn't go into this pay-per-view without knowing what your boy TW Talking About and your man Sach are thinking. So, you're welcome, okay? But seriously, hit us up online, hit us up on the Twitter, hit us up in the comments on the Facebook, leave your comments underneath the YouTube video. Let us know what you're thinking. Like I said, whatever platform you're listening to this on, please give us a subscription and give us a rating and leave us some comments. Let us know what we can do to make this show the best show for you. All right, guys, that's our show for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Share this with a friend. Let's bring more people into the conversation. Always tell a friend to tell a friend. And yeah, man, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week.
My aunt said I got the cutting edge, so I guess it's only right I take a decade of decadence, 4 more years, then it's Kanye West for president. You know that I'm a man with it. I shouldn't have to say it twice. You don't have to love me. You just gotta act right. Yeah. I don't fall in love though. Every night gonna be a fun night.